there are a couple of things that we both agree on that are absolute non-negotiables. What I mean by non-negotiables is that if you don't have these two things in place, you can't really have a very successful, an ultra successful agency that can continue to scale up and up. Hey, this is Vlad from the Insurance Sales Lab, and with me today, I have Neil from Smart Financial. Neil, tell us what you do.
Hey, Vlad, delighted to be here today. Thank you so much for your time. So I work at Smart Financial, and I'm the Director of Account Management. And what we do at Smart Financial is we help insurance agents get more business on the books via leads, clicks, and live transfers. Our job is to help insurance agents grow their book of business.
Awesome. So on my end, I'm the founder of the Insurance Sales Lab, and what I do for insurance agents is I help them close as many leads as they possibly can, whether they're buying leads from Smart Financial or they're generating their own referrals. I teach my 6-step script, the one called Close, which agents use in their agency to teach their staff on how to close more deals.
Yes.
And one of the things and one of the reasons why we're doing this webinar is that we constantly get the same question over and over again, and that is, how much money should an agency spend on marketing, and how many leads they should buy on a monthly basis? So there's a lot of theories on how to do this and how to do the math, but in this video, we want to break down the exact metrics and how to come up with that magic number. So we're going to do our best to do that.
Absolutely.
Before we fully dive in, there are a couple of things that we both agree on that are absolute non-negotiables. What I mean by non-negotiables is that if you don't have these two things in place, you can't really have a very successful, an ultra successful agency that can continue to scale up and up. And that is this. The first thing is that your team must be trained on how to sell. Because if you provide your team with a lot of really high quality leads, but they don't know how to ask for the sale, they don't know how to overcome objections, then they simply just will not close a lot of business. And then if you have a trained sales team, then you can give them semi-okay leads, people who may not have really high intent when it comes to switching their insurance to a new agency, yet they still close those deals because they know how to sell. So that's the part that I can help with, and my information is right below this video as far as how you can get access to the sales training. But Neil, I'd like for you to talk a little bit about our second non-negotiable that agents must know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree with you. That is a component. You got to have the right people in place. You have to have the right process. And then, of course, you have to have the right product to give to your people and your process. So in regards to CPA, we hear this all the time. It's one of the most common questions we hear from our clients on cost per acquisition. What is CPA? I use TurboTax to do my taxes. I don't need a CPA. No, we're talking about we're talking about cost per acquisition. How much should I be spending to gain a new client? And we'll go over the answer, and ultimately the answer varies. It comes down to what your average revenue is per customer, and we will go into the math shortly, I believe.
Yes, yep. Do you mind giving your Shark Tank example that you brought up earlier?
Yes. So, if you go to pitch on Shark Tank, either you're in front of Damien or Cuban, they'll always ask the entrepreneur, what is your cost to gain a new client? The same thing is apparent and holds true in this example with insurance agencies. It is a business. You must understand what it costs to put a new client on your books. So it is very important to understand that number.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those people who are watching this video who also watch Shark Tank, it's a show where small business owners go to pitch their business to a group of investors. And one of the things that investors always ask is, how much money does it cost you to gain one new client? And if you look at the early seasons, I think they're in their 11th season at the time of this recording. Mm-hmm. The earlier seasons, a lot of people didn't know their numbers. So they would never get the deals. The investors would not give them a lot of money or any money. So people got smarter, and now they're required to know their numbers before they show up on the show, because that's the number one question that any investor will look at. And the problem with most insurance agents is they don't know their cost per acquisition. So let's go and do the math to figure out how to properly come up with your CPA. I'm going to ship my whiteboard here. Okay, so there are a couple of metrics that we need to first define for us to come up with our CPA. The first one is, how much commission do you make for a new household that you acquire? And for this example, we're going to consider someone that has 2 cars and a home. Neil, in your experience, what do you see across the country being the average cost or the commission per new household?
Sure. It varies. Of course it varies. Depends on competitiveness, depends on aggressiveness of the agent, follow-up people, and product, of course. But on average, if I had to give you a number, I would say it's $250 per new household.
Okay. $250 for a new household. That's how much an agency makes when they write a new account. Okay. Now the second number is willingness to spend to acquire that client. So that's like our CPA. How much are we willing to spend to acquire a client that we get paid $250 on? So what do you think an average CPA is?
Again, varies depending on the state, of course. Also depends on the agent themselves. And if the agent doesn't know, they can come to us because we might know as well. But on average, in this example, we would say a viable CPA is about $200.
Yep. Okay. And just so we're clear, this number is how much you're willing to spend to acquire one new client. So it's funny because I talk to a lot of agents and I would say something like, Neil, if you make $250 on one new client, how much money are you willing to spend to get that one client? And a lot of times agents start off by saying, well, I don't know, $100. And I say, okay, you're willing to spend $100 to acquire a $250 client. Is that right?
100 is great. 100 is gracious. You're talking to some very, risk prone agents. We hear much lower than that. Every lead should be a sale, is what we hear.
Yeah, exactly. So then the next question is, all right, Neil, are you willing to spend $150 to get this client from who you get $250 on? And
I would take that deal. Yes.
They would do that. Would you do $200?
I would do 200. Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of people, like to your point, they're willing to go to $250. Sometimes they're willing to lose money to get that client because they know they make their money on renewals.
Exactly. And to add on to that, Lev, the CPA depends on the risk tolerance of the agent. And to your point, yes, some agents are willing to take a short-term loss. They know that the renewals, the referrals that they get from the business that they write through services like ours, that is their compensation. That is their money. That is not ours. So it depends on the agent's viewpoint of how they are going to use a service like ours.
Yeah, and I think $200 is an appropriate number for this example because that gives you $50 to pay your team member for commission. So,
I would agree, yes.
Yeah, $200 for marketing, $50 for commission. Okay, so so that's our baseline numbers. Now let's determine our actual cost per live transfer, cost per lead. So one of the leads that you guys offer is live transfers. There's a lot of different leads you guys offer, but for this particular example, we're going to use live transfer. How would you define a live transfer, Neil?
I'm glad you asked. So what a live transfer is if a consumer is on one of our websites. We own and operate a numerous amount of websites out there, smartfinancial.com being one of them. That's our flagship. If a consumer visits that website, we have our contact center's phone number plastered on the site. Pick up the phone, get in touch with an insurance representative in a few short minutes. Those consumers pick up the phone because they don't want to enter all their personal information online, especially in this day and age. People do get a little nervous of filling out forms online. It's completely understandable. They get routed to our in-house contact center. Used to be in Costa Mesa. Now, since everybody's working from home today in today's day and age, we're just kind of scattered all over the place, but still in-house. They get transferred to the contact center. The contact center reps are trained to gather as much information as they can from that consumer. The other thing they are trained to do is make sure that there is an intent to receive a price or a quote from the consumer. Okay. If those boxes get checked off, we tell the consumer, thank you for the information that you've provided. We'll place you on a brief hold and we'll get you in contact with a licensed agent to help finish that quote for you.
Okay. And how much does that lead cost? A live
So
transfer?
all of that, yeah, all of that on average will cost $40, give or take.
Yeah, it can be higher, it could be lower, depending on various things, right?
Correct. It can be lower, absolutely, to your point.
Yeah.
And it could be higher depending on the demand. We are seeing quite a demand right now for live transfers, but yes, higher or lower, but 40 is a good baseline.
I think a lot of people will reach out to you guys after watching this video and trying to get these live transfers to see how these numbers break down. Because here's the crazy part, Neil, is that a lot of agents will look at this and say, no way, Jose, am I paying $40 for a lead? I can get a $5 lead. I can get a $10 lead. But you're not thinking correctly. You're thinking about just getting a name and number that you can contact. These are people who are on the phone, who've been pre-scrubbed. They've been asked a series of questions. They are ready to get a quote. So they transfer it over to your agency. You just don't drop the ball. As long as you quote them properly and ask for the sale, you should close a good number of those people. So that is a good number. That's a very inexpensive number if it ends up working for your CPA, which we're going to finalize right here. So that being said, cost per lead, we agreed it's $40 for this example. Our cost per acquisition is $200. If you take 40 divided by 200, what do you get, Neil?
That's 5.
So 0.25 or 0.20.
0.20.
Yes. Yeah, that means you must close only one out of how many, Neil?
5 of them.
This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is the magic number right here. I'm going to take my time to circle that. Here's what this means. If you just close 1 out of 5 people, you've only spent $200, but you made $250 back. Does that make sense? Like and you brought this up as well, Neil, that there's a huge gap between agents that are writing $200,000 in premium per month or $300,000 in premium purely from these leads, and they still remain profitable versus the agents who are barely making it. Like, what have you seen be the biggest difference between the agents that are absolutely crushing it versus those that are not? Is it really that is the main reason why the biggest agents successful because they have a lot of money, or is there a different reason that you have found to be true?
You know, it depends who you ask. But if you ask me, the numbers stay the same, whether it's for the individual who has a budget of $250 on a daily basis or a weekly basis, or the individual that has a $250 budget for the hour. It really just depends on the agent and being consistent with the process. We always coach our agents, and that's one of the things that we stress upon with our relationships with our agents. We help coach on good process on how to turn that prospect into a sale. Go for the sale on the phone right away, or do the required follow-up that's necessary, but do not let up. Again, it just depends on the agency, but the numbers stay the same. Those don't change.
Yeah, and the funny thing with that is some of the agents that I talk to that are spending $20,000 a month buying leads from you guys, I ask them and I say, so how do you get to a point where you're doing $200,000 or $20,000 a month on buying leads? And they always have the same answer. They always say, I started off with spending $1,000 a month, but when we started making our money back the very first month, I bumped it up to $2,000, then $5,000 a month, then $10,000, and I just ended up spending more and more money on marketing. And really, their bottleneck, Neil, is not so much where do I get leads from or I need to improve my close rate. It's they just don't have enough people in place.
Right.
So that's a better problem to have than have a bunch of people working for you and not be able to close business. So people kind of poke fun at me because I like to use whiteboards, and here's my second one. If that one wasn't enough, I got my second one here. So I kind of want to bring the point home. I want to take our number that we came up with earlier, and we said, let's just say you spend $200 a day, because the question of the day is right above the screen. You should see, how much money should you spend on leads or marketing for your insurance agency? That's the question, right? So let's go ahead and answer that right here. Spend per day, let's just say $200. If we spend $200 on live transfer leads, how many leads will we get on a daily basis?
For our example, we'd get 5.
5, okay. And if we close 1 out of 5 people per our example, how many new households would we have written?
1.
1. Which our average commission for that one household is what?
$250.
$250. Are we profitable, or are we breaking even, or are we losing money that day?
It's making sense. It's making money.
Yep. So you spent $200, you made $250, you spent $200 in marketing and $50 for the team members commission. So you probably broke even. And that's what a lot of agents intend on doing, because they make their money off renewals.
Correct.
So that's the simplified version on how to determine your budget and how much you should spend in marketing. Now, beneath this video, we're going to include a link where agents can put in their own numbers that are relevant to their agency to be able to calculate their marketing spend and how many leads they need to buy in order to hit their goal. So if they want to write $100,000 in premium or $200,000 in premium, we're going to include a calculator, marketing calculator, right below this video. So you can go to click on that and do your own math. But I'm hoping that this makes sense to you as the insurance agent who's watching this video, that you can be profitable with buying leads. And for most agents who say that leads suck, I don't want to buy leads because I've had bad luck with them. What I would say to that is that most of the time, the leads don't suck. If I can be super frank and honest, I'd say that your team members suck at selling. That's really what it comes down to most of the time, is that they're not taking the prospect on a very strategic journey where they're building value on your agency and your company, and they're just selling on price. That's why it's so important to have the 6-step script to Will One Call Close, which we'll include right below this video. But I do want to mention that one thing that you brought up to me several times, Neil, is that yes, you can have the best leads, you can have a good sales process, but there's one thing that you mentioned about having a relationship with your lead company. Can you speak to that a little bit and tell me what you meant by that?
Absolutely. You know, and to discuss a point that you had brought up too, sometimes poor leads do come through, you know, just it happens. But to, you know, hone in my point, which you were alluding to, one important factor that I want all of, you know, these insurance agents out there to understand is that it's a partnership, and more importantly, it's a relationship. So we stress that open communication between the insurance agent and the account manager. The account manager is the digital marketing expert. They talk to various agents, hundreds of agents on a daily basis across the nation. We know what's working in Florida, South Florida, Texas, California, New York. We know what campaigns are working based off of the feedback that we are getting from our agents. So use us as a source of knowledge. Come to us and ask us for advice. Sometimes we'll give advice on our own because we believe that it is working, and we know it's working based off of feedback that we are getting from our agents. But it's very important to build that relationship with your account manager. The other thing we have access to, which is not public information, is we also know pricing. So if we do know that calls in New York, for example, are at a slightly lower price, we'd be more than happy to adjust our pricing for the agent, all in the name of helping CPA. As well, too, if an agent is not receiving volume, it's because somebody in the area, somebody down the street's buying up all the volume. We can also give that advice to agents as well. And then we can have a discussion. Hey, should we chase that particular opportunity? It's going to affect our CPA. Mm-hmm. Again, it all comes down to CPA being the only metric that really matters. But behind the CPA and behind the personnel, one thing that I'd like to really stress is that Smart Financial, we value our relationships with our agents, and we hope that our agents value their relationships with us as the account managers.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing you say, Neil, is if I'm an insurance agent and I feel like, man, like the numbers aren't making sense on my marketing right now, I think I need to cut down my the amount of leads that I'm buying. That instead of just sending out an email saying, hey, cancel my account for a month or two, that I should probably call you and see what we can work out and see what's working, what's not working, and if there are any suggestions that you have, right? Because things change by the day, by the minute. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. And we're also going to say you should go to insurancesaleslab.com before saying that. But
Yeah.
you know, all jokes aside, yeah, you know, my philosophy on leads and any sort of campaign that an agent does decide to go with is the leads work. We need to find out, and our job as account managers and our company as a whole, when we are servicing our agents, is to figure out how to make them work for the agent and their office. There's numerous factors that are involved. If they come to us and understand that we are the experts, we're not just customer service reps here who take orders. We are there to give solid, fundamental advice. We have access to a lot of information which is not public. We know what's going on. We know what's happening down the street or across the state. We'd be more than happy to kind of divulge into what seems to be working, what seems to not be working, and then act accordingly from there.
Awesome. Okay. If you can give one piece of feedback to or advice for the agent who's watching this video, what would that be? And as you come up with your answer, keep in mind, if you're watching this video and you're a life insurance agent or a health insurance agent, or you specialize in just selling homeowners insurance and you don't sell a lot of auto insurance, or just auto, not so much home, which is rare, but you guys offer a whole variety of leads: home,
Correct.
auto, life, health. So anybody can apply the things that we talked about, but what is the biggest piece of advice that you have for insurance agents, regardless of what product they sell?
The biggest piece of advice that I can give any insurance agent is to take CPA at the pinnacle of their business. Everything needs to be CPA centric. We have a saying in our group chats that we have constantly going back and forth. It's CPA all day.
All day. CPA all day. I love that.
CPA all day.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, hopefully everybody who watched this video gathered a couple of great takeaways. If you have any questions about anything that we went over, we're going to include our contact information right below this video. And again, if you need to start writing business today, not in a month or 2 or 3 months from now, if you want to start writing business today, the best thing to do is to reach out to Smart Financial. And how quickly can someone get an account with you guys and start getting leads?
15 minutes, 10 minutes.
So I can get an account with you and then later the same day start getting my first set of leads.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Cool. Terrific. Well, thank you for jumping on this call, Neil.
Thanks for having me.
Later. And to everybody watching this video, thanks for hopping on. Take care.
Thanks, Vlad.